Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, is made possible in part by Allstate and the Searle Funds at the Chicago Community Trust.
Good evening y bienvenidos to Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices. I'm Michael Puente, reporter with WBEZ Chicago. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us on the show tonight. An uptick in car-related injuries and deaths for Chicago's bicyclists leads to a call for improved cycling infrastructure. A new plan for the Lake Calumet Port of Chicago region places nature, recreation, and industry side by side. Upcoming festivals offer some fun in the sun in Chicago's Humboldt Park and back of the yards neighborhoods.
Un alebrije es una figura fantástica.
And fantastical folk art creatures make a big debut in Wheaton's Cantigny Park. First off tonight, the inconsistent patchwork of protected bike lanes can make Chicago's streets a dangerous place for bicyclists. From 2012 to 2019, an average of 5 to 6 bicyclists were killed every year in Chicago. But since the pandemic began in 2020, that number has ticked upward to 9 deaths in 2020 and 10 deaths in 2021. So far this year, 3 bicyclists have been killed by cars. And the Metropolitan Planning Agency reported a 25% jump in serious injuries to cyclists and pedestrians from 2020 to 2021. But despite the city's stated plans to do more to protect cyclists, transit advocates say there is a long way to go to make the streets a welcoming place for bikes. Joining us now with more are Lena Guerrero Reynolds, a Northwest Side resident and avid bicyclist, Audrey Winnick, Director of Transportation at the Metropolitan Planning Council, and Ruth Rosas, a bicycling advocate with the Transportation Equity Network. Thank you for all of you for joining us here today on Latino Voices. Lena, let's get started with you. You're a bike commuter near a Northwest Side intersection that has been the site of 2 cyclist fatalities in recent years. Do you feel safe on your daily commute?
You know, it's scary when stuff like that happens because it could be any one of us, right? And it's sad too for the families that have lost someone. I still think that biking is like the best way to get around town. It's so efficient, it's so affordable. And I just want it to be safer so that we don't have to see tragedies like this happen in our neighborhoods.
Ruth Rosas, what are your thoughts on the Lightfoot administration's approach to bike infrastructure in Chicago?
I think it will be a really great idea if they do actually go forward with a lot of the plans to expand the bike network. But I do think that a lot of equitable practices need to be embedded into the actual creation of bicycle infrastructure, making sure that neighborhoods that have been marginalized and left out of creating bicycle lanes in their communities or have been left out or invisibilized in the bicycling community really need to be sought out for their input, especially with everything that has happened in the last 2 years, making sure that, equity is at the forefront.
Now, Audrey, what role do you see aldermen playing in advocating for bicyclist protection?
Aldermen can be a definite force for good when they are supportive of bike lanes, and we would hope that they understand the value of installing protected bike lanes as much as possible so that cyclists are not riding only with a stripe of paint as their protection, but ideally have a concrete protected bike lane so that they feel truly safe and people of all ages and abilities come out and ride.
Okay. Now, Lena, what steps have you taken to avoid dangerous routes while cycling, and is it different in the summer, say, compared to winter?
Yeah, I've definitely gone pretty far out of my way, especially if I know I'm riding later at night or on weekends when people are more likely to be, intoxicated behind the wheel. And we shouldn't have to do that in order to take the lakefront trail or the off-street trails. It can be miles out of our way. And, when people are trying to use biking as a form of transportation to get to their stores, to their schools, to their families' houses, we need infrastructure that's safe everywhere, like throughout the city, and not just in these edges and distant places that are hard to make it part of your everyday life. Yeah, I try and do what I can to be aware, but it's such a complicated process, and it takes all of us. It needs everybody, and it needs better infrastructure so that it doesn't fall on individuals.
Just staying with you, Lena, do you view the city, the people say Chicago is a bike-friendly city. Do you view that way?
Yeah, I mean, we're a flat city, which I think is an incredible asset that we have. We have a great grid network, and we have a lot of people who want to find more sustainable, affordable, equitable transportation in the city. But it's a shame when we hear leadership saying that, like, this is just a driving town, kind of dismissing all of the people who take public transit, who take bicycles, who walk as forms of transportation, and always have throughout Chicago history. And you know, there are ways of making all of these forms of transportation safe, and we just need to be utilizing them.
Now, Ruth Rosas, how has the pandemic, in your view, impacted cycling patterns and traffic safety?
I think a lot of people that weren't maybe previously cycling in the city sought out cycling as a form of getting around because they were afraid of maybe being in public transit during the pandemic, or they wanted to be outside. And so many people went out to bike shops and got bikes. That changed a lot of access to cycling for so many people, but also the expansion of the Divvy network also allowed people to access bikes that previously didn't or did not have bike stations. But it definitely has traffic, and the amount of traffic crashes and the increase in that safety has definitely changed the way that people, I guess, you know, there's just been a lot of close calls, and I think that bike safety, it needs to be something that, you know, we need to talk about because of the amount of crashes that have happened in the past few months.
Now, Audrey, do you think Chicago's government actually views bicycling as transportation versus just, say, recreation?
Well, there are a number of plans that do say the right things. The Chicago Department of Transportation has a new strategic plan. The Climate Action Plan lists shifting people to sustainable modes as an important strategy. However, there's also a complete streets design guidelines policy. And what that means is prioritizing, you know, who's the priority on each street. And that hierarchy is supposed to be pedestrians are number one, transit's number two, cyclists are number three, and cars are last. And so that would mean that the way you allocate street space, the way you manage speeds, the way you design roads would make it more comfortable and safer. Again, prioritizing the more vulnerable users, transit users, pedestrians, and cyclists. And I think those design guidelines have been around for over a decade, and I don't think most people would say that on most streets it feels that way, that pedestrians feel super safe crossing streets, that cyclists have a complete network of protected bike lanes. So I think there are people who believe that in the Department of Transportation, but we have to dedicate enough resources, both financial and human resources, to really making that happen.
Now, Lena, as a bike commuter, how do you think car drivers regard you on the street?
It depends. I mean, there's definitely dangerous folks out there and aggressive folks. But, you know, everybody makes mistakes and can be distracted on the road. And we should have infrastructure that accounts for that and that keeps people safe, even in dangerous, you know, conflicting sorts of situations. I think during the pandemic, a lot more drivers have gotten faster and cars have gotten a lot bigger. And so the dangers are more real, even if the practices, you know, of the past are the same. So I think that we should also be really accounting for those factors that make it more dangerous, and implementing better protected bike lane networks.
Well, our thanks to Lena Guerrero-Reynolds, Audrey Winnick, and Ruth Rosas.
Thank you.
Up next, the future of Lake Calumet. Stay with us. The 442-acre Lake Calumet is perhaps the most visible remnant of the rise and fall of industry on Chicago's southeast side. Over its years as part of the Port of Chicago, the very shape of the lake has been changed by industry, and years of industrial abuse have taken a toll on the water, soil, and air. And for the past few decades, most of the lake has been fenced off and inaccessible to area residents who once visited for recreation. But there are harbingers of change on the horizon, with a recently designated Pullman National Monument bringing in tourists and new leadership at the Illinois International Port District. And earlier this year, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning issued its master plan for Lake Calumet, which it says creates a place where industry, nature, and recreation can coexist. Joining us now with more are Dustin Cagliari, a senior planner at the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, who managed the Port District Master Plan project, and Tom Shepard, an environmentalist activist with the Lake Calumet Vision Committee. Dustin, let's start with you. How did the master plan come about, and who were partners involved in creating the plan?
Yeah, for sure. So CMAP started working with the Port District going back to 2017. The IAPD actually came to us looking for planning assistance and helped to kind of look at the future of the Port District and how really taking a step back and creating a master vision for where it can go.
Now, Tom, you're a longtime Southeast Side resident. What was it like? What was Lake Calumet like when you were a child?
Well, it was mysterious and it was fun, and you could just walk onto the property around the lake at that time. You could throw a fishing pole into the water and catch fish, or you could hike around there. Some people hunted. It was really, really wild out there. And to have that right in the middle of the city of Chicago, or in the middle of the South Side, it could be so much more of an asset than having it fenced off and closed off to the public.
Tom, do you think most Chicagoans even realize there is Lake Calumet down there and all the nature that's down there?
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, Michael, because so many folks don't even know there's a lake back there. If you drive down the expressway, which tens of thousands of cars do every day, there's a big berm out there. You can't see back there. You can't tell there's natural spaces within the city of Chicago. And you certainly could never get out there to enjoy it unless you were playing a round of golf at the 2 golf courses that they created there.
All right. Now, Dustin, how much environmental remediation is needed at the site?
Sure. So that's something that the plan takes a look at, particularly in terms of water quality, as well as some of the soil qualities. So the plan itself doesn't determine the level of environmental remediation needed, but it recommends further studies, particularly as we look to the future of creating more wildlife habitat up at Square Marsh, treatment wetlands within Lake Calumet, and future commercial opportunities around the lake. That environmental cleanup is going to be a crucial first step.
Now, Tom, what level of interest in the community is there to see more natural recreation at Lake Calumet?
Oh, gosh, there's an awful lot. This is an opportunity to take advantage of the fact that the South Side has been shortchanged for many years on open space and parkland. With one fell swoop, we can make this a destination point and provide recreation for people in all sorts of areas, from kayaking and fishing and bird watching and hiking and bicycle pedaling and all the different things that could be done out there. They have 2,200 acres, and with only a few hundred acres set aside for the public, we could do an awful lot. And I'm so happy that the new board and the new direction and the CMAP participation has been transparent and open-minded, broad-minded, and we're looking forward to seeing wonderful things out there.
Well, speaking of the new board, Dustin, the Port District has new leadership in place. Are there any indications they will be receptive to the ideas in the master plan?
Yeah, so we've been working directly with Eric Varela, who's the new executive director, as well as the Port Board throughout this project. One thing, the project's been going on since 2019. We actually put the project on pause in late 2020 while the executive director position was vacant to make sure that when the plan came to this point where we're finalizing things, that we had buy-in from the new leadership, from the board, and everyone's rowing the same direction.
Now, Tom, what resistance to restoring natural areas and access to Lake Calumet have you encountered?
Well, just across the highway from Lake Calumet is hundreds of acres that the Sherwin-Williams factory once occupied. And rather than to remediate it, it was going to be so costly to completely remediate it. They just covered up with asphalt. I don't know how many acres, dozens and dozens or hundreds, but things like that are happening. We're hoping that some federal funding is going to come in and assist the Port District Board and the management there to do cleanup and allow for people to be out on the property. I'm not sure what level, but we'd like to see some native species reintroduced and some of the invasive species taken out. So we're looking forward to good things happening from here.
Dustin, what's next for the master plan?
Yeah, for sure. So the master plan is currently in draft form. It's available for public comment on the CMAP website. We're taking feedback right now. We're looking to finalize that the next couple weeks. And then the plan will be up for formal adoption by the Port Board come June 17th. And then from there, that's where the fun starts. So that's where we start to look at implementation. How do we make the vision that the Port and CMAP and all of our partners, including the Lake Calumet Vision Committee, have helped develop over the past few years? How do we turn that into a reality? And that's where the real fun's going to start.
Great. Well, our thanks to Dustin Cagliari and Tom Shepard. Back with more Chicago Tonight Latino Voices right after this.
Don't miss one of our stories. Get them all delivered to your desktop or mobile device with a subscription to the WTTW News Daily Briefing. Go to WTTW.com/daily briefing and sign up.
Festival season is in full swing and two upcoming fiestas are back in full force. First up, Fiestas Patronales Puertorriqueñas is bringing tropical taste, culture, and sounds to Humboldt Park next weekend. Event producers Michelle and Melissa Gomez say the Puerto Rican community is more than ready to celebrate La Isla del Encanto once again.
Fiestas Patronales Puertorriqueñas is going to be June 9th through 12th in Humboldt Park, Chicago. And we're doing a community day on June 9th, 30th. So we invite everyone to come check it out. We're going to have a full carnival for the kids to have fun and like a lot of great kids activities.
Saturday is Noche Tropical. Charlie Aponte is coming in. We have La Máquina, and then El Carvito is coming as well. So a lot of different entertainment on Saturday, and then Sunday as well, more artists coming in. Lalo Rodriguez and Johnny Rivera.
Everyone's just itching to get out, bring out the family. They want to show their Puerto Rican pride. People want to learn about the culture. So we're really excited to be able to put this together and make it like an awesome community experience.
And Fiesta Back of the Yards will be back on 47th Street next weekend as well. The Back of the Yards Neighborhood Council CEO Craig Chico says their 30th year will be a celebration of culture that reflects the community.
We block off 47th Street from Ashland to Damon, and we have a number of activities and food vendors and a lot of fun family type events that go on for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, June 10, 11, and 12. We have at least 2 stages with 30 different bands that are going to perform throughout the weekend on our main stage. So you're going to find bandas and mariachi, and that's something you're going to like. Over 30 food vendors. Most of that is Mexican food, but we have food from around the world. On our cultural stage, we'll have a lot of different music from around the city, but our ballet folklorico, which is internationally renowned, will be performing throughout the weekend. The culture that we celebrate is something that the community really enjoys because, you know, we're identifying now as predominantly a Mexican-American community, African-American community. People enjoy that. They want to be able to be proud of their heritage.
And you can find more information on both festivals on our website. From embroidered textiles to painted pottery to tooled leather goods, Mexico's folk art traditions burst with all the brilliant color and life of the country itself. Some of these traditions have origins reaching back centuries, but one beloved folk art form is not even 100 years old yet. The exuberantly imaginative, fantastical creatures known as Alebrijes, which date back to the 1930s. The art form exploded in popularity when an Alebrije named Pepita was featured in the 2017 Disney Pixar film Coco. Now, gigantic Alebrijes made by master Mexican artisans have taken up residence in a north suburban park. Producer Erica Gunderson has this very big story.
Que es una pieza mágica, que es una pieza con sueños de nosotros.
Ellos nos van hablando, nos van diciendo, esto sí, esto no.
You're not dreaming. Giant, fantastical creatures like winged lemurs, two-headed dogs, and rabbit kangaroos are indeed frolicking among the flowers in Wheaton's Cantini Park. 18 monumental versions of the folk art known as Alebrijes are in the park as part of an exhibit brought here by the Mexican Cultural Center DuPage in collaboration with Mesli Artist Collective in Mexico City.
Pues aquí tenemos a Tochtli, se llama así porque en náhuatl significa conejo. Y pues bueno, es como un conejo canguro con una cresta como de iguana.
If you've traveled to Mexico, you might have brought home an alebrije like this little cat as a memento. But the alebrijes on display at Cantini Park are much closer to the original artist's fever dream of fantastical creatures that existed only in his imagination. They're also a little bit bigger.
Y tanto las aletas como la calavera son inspiradas en los peces marinos que viven en la profundidad.
The artists say the inspiration for the intricate adornment on each alebrije can come from anywhere.
Yo me inspiro en la naturaleza para realizar un alebrije. Sí influye mucho tu estado de ánimo y siempre vas a plasmar tus sentimientos en lo que sientes en ese momento para pintar tu.
Este alebrije se llama bicéfalo, entre el bien y el mal. Viene inspirado en el yin yang, por eso tiene la cabeza peleando contra la otra, pero más que nada es como una pelea entre uno mismo, entre el bien y el mal que tienes con.
Arturo Zarate constructed his alebrije, a combination of toucan, jaguar, bull, and butterfly he calls the malucan, with recycled materials like paper and plastic bottles that he solicited through social media.
Tiene que ver mucho con las especies en peligro de extinción y la fascinación del ser humano por apropiarse de otras especies de animales que deberían de ser libres. Claro, toda mi obra, mi producción y mi lema es el 90% de la producción es reciclado, porque es importante cuidar nuestro medio ambiente, convivir en armonía con los animales. Las personas mexicanas, los latinos, tenemos mucha resiliencia y mucha fuerza, entonces es empoderar todo lo que significamos.
The visiting artists say they hope their big and brilliant alebrijes will inspire people to learn more about Mexico's many artistic traditions.
De hecho, lo que nosotros venimos a mostrar aquí en Chicago es solamente una pequeñísima parte de todo lo que hay en México.
For Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, this is Erica Gunderson.
The exhibit Alebrijes, Creatures of a Dream World will be on display at Cantini Park through October. In addition to the monumental alebrijes on display in the gardens, another 30 small alebrijes are on display throughout the gardens and inside the First Division Museum. You can find out more about that on our website. And that's our show for this weekend. Be sure to check out our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News. And while you're there, make sure to check out our Summer Festival Guide. And if you're watching us on Saturday night, know that you can also catch Latino Voices and Black Voices on Sundays beginning at 10 p.m. And don't forget, you can catch my reporting on 91.5 FM WBEZ. And now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, I'm Michael Puente. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. Stay healthy, stay safe. Buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm pleased to give back to the community through numerous charitable initiatives.